When you have a character that has such a vast sort of span of experiences in one film, do you have one scene? Is there one moment in a film or like a script that you can use to sort of get to the essence of who this guy is that can inform, the rest of the movie?
Yeah, I mean it's funny. The first thing that leaps to mind when you ask me that is when I first read the script. I really liked it, but there was one moment in it that made me really want to do it. It was very small, and it's there's that big wedding sequence when I married the second wife, and the father gives me the gun. And I pull him away from this table where he's telling a story about the Hungarian with a big heart on, and I start laughing because the guy's so great, and he gives me the gun, and I remember just thinking, I really, for some reason, want to do that, because I think that's such a great moment. That moment of, instead of me being embarrassed by him, I think it's great what he's doing, and I just thought something about the relationship with the father. I thought this is different than any other kind of father-son thing I've seen in the movie. So that, I think, was, yeah. And there's something about the father is he's authentic and real in a way that this guy wishes he could be like his father, in this way that not give a shit. And he gets to be a bit more like the father as he gets older, but he's never quite the amazing sort of spirit his father is. So I think there was a lot of that, yeah.
Well, do you just need to understand what a character's behavior is when he is in this film in particular seems to be making a lot of decisions that may not be the right decision, or is it important through the telling of the film to sort of explain that to the audience? I mean, is it more important for you to know it than to communicate that to the audience and then them sort of?
I think it's more important for me to. I think I like aesthetically more the audience having to figure it out for themselves and it being so obvious why somebody is doing what they're doing. I think I personally like that better in a movie. So yeah, and I think that there are lots of ways in this movie, but somebody said to me the other day, the alcoholism is a big thing in this movie, and yet the word is never said. Nobody ever says anything to him about stop fucking drinking. And it's never sort of explained. Like, oh, he drinks because of. And I like that in something, that there isn't really any, who knows, I don't know. I do know, but hopefully other people will draw what they draw out.
Where do you tend to take sort of your cues? I mean, this obviously had source material for you to draw upon, and probably more detail that you could have referred to in the book. But at the same time, that you can't explore the entire breadth of a novel in the span of one film. So, where do you draw your cues from, and where do you have to sort of draw the line and say, I need to focus exclusively?
I think I drew most of the cues from the script itself, and I looked at the book, and I was shocked at how different the book was, frankly, at first. And then I did get some things from the book. I would say mostly they were from the script, from being in Montreal and those places, from actually watching a bit of footage and talking to people who knew the writer, because I was told it was sort of autobiographical, and so I think I probably drew cues from that. Then I think there were other things. Then there's all the rest of it that I'm drawing on with people, that whatever it is, there were other things that came into being, but those would be the three main things.
Well, I talked to Rosamund, and she was talking about the scene where you two are able to finally have your lunch, and she said that was kind of the moment that she felt like really informed the rest of your relationship, because she discovered this guy was obviously making more effort than she expected to woo her. It wasn't just sort of a conquest or
he really is sincere about it. So sincere he's crapping himself with fear.
And he's drinking himself.
Yeah, he's not Mr. Smooth, just like hitting on this woman. And he's terrified that she's going to say no.
Well, did you have a moment in the course of the relationship and in the various stages of this relationship that you felt like sort of helped you define how the two of these characters interacted with one another?
Yeah, it's not in the movie, actually. It's really too bad. There's a scene that got cut, and they put it back and cut it again. They put it back. They had a real tussle over keeping it in the movie, and it wasn't a big, significant scene. But it was one where we were watching TV, she and I, and it was a nice scene because it was... And it was nice because I'm making her tea, and we're watching TV, and she's bitching about watching this woman on TV who's an inept news reporter. And I kind of go off on the woman, and she finds it funny, and she says something to me about, I say, is the honey still any good? And I'm smelling it. She says, honey never goes bad. And I'm looking at her, and I'm like, how the hell do you know that? And it's this wonderful interaction where I just think she is the smartest, most incredible thing, and she thinks I'm funny. And she doesn't mind me being, and I can be myself in front of this. And I remember just thinking what happens for the guy is he can be crazy and grounded at the same time, because she grounds him and allows him to be the kind of nut that he is. So that scene was really nice, and it's gone.
Well, you did.
And it was a meaningless little interstitial scene, but I always thought there was something about it that was important. But
well, you do kind of have that with The Onion.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and I think that's why they thought we'll leave The Onion. Yes. Yeah. But there was something funny. I don't know. But whatever, things have to go. But that would have been it for me.
You know, this film is kind of interesting in that it kind of asks the question to an extent, like, are we entitled to happiness? I mean, he makes a lot of decisions in the pursuit of his own happiness that kind of affect other people adversely. You know, is that something at all that you think about? I guess the idea that, you know, are we entitled enough that whatever decisions we make in the service of that are in the end justifiable?
Yeah.
You know,
you're asking some good questions, man. I think about it all the time, dude. I mean, I think that's a big question, man. I don't know that I think about it all the time. I don't have an answer to it. I go back and forth about it. I think one of the things I liked about this character was his brazenness and just taking shit for himself. He's affected by it in some way. I mean, I'm always impressed with people who can do that. I always wonder if they truly are able to do it, or if they're, I don't know, man. That's a big question, man. But somebody asked me, and this is something I wonder if somebody said to me, I think he's punished in some way with the Alzheimer's? Is that meant? And I thought, that's a really fucking fucked up way to think about it. But I thought, does it seem like that in some way, that he's punished?
Well, I would say absolutely not. I mean, you know,
I thought, wow, if that comes across, that's a drag, kind of.
Well, I don't think it's
got that from it. They were like, there's some sort of punishment meted out to him for being a bastard. I was like, wow, that's an intense way to look at it.
Well, I think, you know, that seems more a product of what morality you bring to the decision making, which, I mean, you know, which he makes a lot of
talking about.
Yeah.
You think it's okay to grab happiness for yourself or not.
Yeah. But, you know, but at the same time, you know, it's interesting because he gets, say, exasperated at this woman who's on this soap opera. Yeah. But at the same time, he fed her ego to a certain extent. I mean, which is to say that he was doing that out of a sense of kindness. I mean, to some extent, you know.
Yes, no, totally. Yes.
And is it important when you are playing a character like this, who could be potentially sort of, in a way, so unredeemably driven to get what he wants? Is it important to have those sort of grace notes or those flourishes even beneath there to sort of demonstrate that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it depends on what story you're telling. I mean, or how you want him to come across. I mean, you could make him worse, and you could be a different movie. I mean, you know, but the movie that we were telling, and I think it's in the book, is you're talking about a guy who's conflicted, and he has different facets to him. So he's not just. But I think it is in there. I mean, the relationship with Rosamund's character has a lot of that. I think one of the things I liked about, as I was saying at the beginning, about the thing with the father, is that gives him a lot of dimension of some kind, and decency and kindness in that relationship with his father that you see, that I think does redeem him in some way.
Well, hopefully. No, absolutely. You know, there's also you know, a very interesting dynamic between him and particularly the two wives before Rosamund, Rosamund's character, Miriam. In that they're both very sort of like broad and kind of like clearly from the outset kind of wrong for him. Yeah. You know, you know, is it hard, easy, you know, or what sort of process is there to make sure that when you have characters like that who can be so big and so immediately sort of wrong, that you are working with that actress to make sure that the relationship has
seems real and
reality
reasons.
As opposed to, you know.
Yeah, well, that was always tricky. The Rome part of the script and the Rome part of it was always the trickiest part to me because you had to truncate it so much. It's a big part of the book. It's Paris, not Rome. And that character has a lot, she has a lot more there. And Rochelle's great. I always worried that that was just going to generally get short shrift. Not just her, but that whole thing gets a little bit short shrift. But, yeah, you know, you do hope that. What's funny in both instances with those characters is, in the inevitable editing together of it, they became a bit more broad than they actually were. There was less broadness. They became a bit more broad. I never felt that I had any kind of problem in keeping it seeming real. The second marriage is supposed to have been so wrong-headedly disastrous that...
From the first moment they meet.
He's just doing it to try and he's like, fuck this, I can't actually pull off this bohemian life thing, and I gotta get my shit together, and I'll do the right thing. I'll marry this woman, and she's hot, but she's annoying, you know, so it's a disaster. But the first wife, I think that you do miss some of the nuances from the novel, and that's nobody's fault other than just the way it got put together, you know.
Mm-hmm. How tough is it, or easy, for you to find roles now that have this kind of dimensionality to them? Because, I mean, it's interesting because after you did Sideways, you had like a real interesting variety of roles. I mean, everything from this to, you got, you know, and then at the same time you have Shoot 'em Up and Fried Claws, these things which are, you know, probably more fun and less, maybe less work as an actor.
Yeah.
You know, but is it hard to find roles that you know continue to challenge you, or by virtue of having done it successfully, do people sort of do they just pile up on your desk? I guess?
No, they don't just pile. I mean, what's interesting is that having done something like Sideways, a lot of the supporting stuff like Shoot 'em Up and Fred Claus, but then, you know, like The Illusionist and other things, suddenly the supporting stuff got really varied, which is great. I don't think that generally there's a whole lot of characters like this out there. I mean, I think it's a pretty rare thing for anybody to be getting, me or anybody, to get such a detailed character study as this is, or like John Adams or something. I think I lucked out. No, it doesn't pile up on my desk, and I don't expect to get it that often. I think it's pretty rare to get something that's this sort of worked out like this, that's this much of a thing like this. And I think the kind of actor I am, it's also rare too. I mean, I don't think they come to the character actor guy so much, that much either. So I would say that, no, they're few and far between, but that's cool. I mean, if they come along, the fact that any have come along is great.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess, you know, sort of further along those lines then, you know, do you have to do a lot of work to make sure that those other roles that maybe that you get offered that are not as immediately sort of dimensional, do you find that those, you have to do a lot of work to make them interesting?
Interesting to myself? Yeah. No, I don't, no. I mean, something like Shoot 'em Up was really fun to do, and no, I don't think, I like to think I've never taken something, I think I've always felt like there will be something interesting. Even Santa Claus, I was like, well, they want it to be kind of a different Santa Claus. This will be interesting. So, no, I don't think I felt like that. Again, I think a lot of it's that I've been lucky with the parts I've gotten in the last 5 or 6 years. I think previous to that, I did get sort of bored with things, yes, and did have to try to make things more interesting for myself or whatever. But I feel like the variety of stuff now that I've gotten, just the sheer variety of it makes everything interesting. So yeah.